So net zero, we've all heard the term, we've all heard it on the news, we've all spoken about businesses going net zero and carbon neutral by X, Y, Z. What does it actually mean? What I've got for you now is a real life example. It's using real data from one of my clients that's agreed to sort of allow their data to be used. And what I want to do is take you through a complete net zero from start to end, and show you how the net zero figures are calculated, what's in a net zero report, etc. Okay, so a whistle stop tour. I hope you find it useful. Let's get started. So first off, data. We're going to need lots of it. I've got my data here. I've collected it all, and I'll show you exactly what we need in a second. So I've got my data. I'm going to use the previous calendar year. So we're at the tail end of 21 at the moment. So I'm going to use calendar year 2020 as a 12-month reference period. Now, carbon neutrality comes in all flavors, which I've explained on other videos, but the question is what standard to follow. Here's a couple you could choose from. You could use the CRC reporting scheme, or that's defunct now, so we won't use that. You could use ESOS, doesn't cover carbon, can't use that. We could use the Streamlined Energy and Carbon Regulations, 150-page of fun. Don't use that because it doesn't cover enough scope 3s. We could use the big boy, the GHG protocol, scope 3. That's what we do our bigger jobs to. That's the kind of standard we follow. But the one I'm going to use for this is this one, because look how thin it is. It's brilliant. It's a much shorter document. This is called PPN 0621, the Procurement Policy Notice 0621. And this is the government standard for people doing net zero calculations and net zero projects who wish to apply for or bid for any government project above £5 million in value. And if you are not PPN 0621 compliant, you can't bid. Okay, so it's gaining traction. Why I'm going to use it in this example is this is a good halfway house. Okay, this is what we're aiming for. But there's so much work to do. Let's get started on this first as a stepping stone. Then a bit later, when we're kind of feeling a bit braver in the world, we'll go for this. Okay, so PPN 0621. What do we need in terms of data? Let's have a look. We need scope 1, scope 1 and 2, which are these, which are the electricity, gas, and any other fuels. So you might have heating fuel, you might have, one of my clients buys steam, you might have, what are the other common ones? Hot water. So one of my clients is in a big old tower block and they buy hot water in the winter and cool water in the summer to put around their sort of temperature control system. You're going to need the fuel, all the fuel you purchased during that reference year. So as I say, last year, 2020. And all the mileage claims to the business, again, in 2020. I'm assuming you're going to be an unquoted company. If you're a quoted company, give me a call or get in contact with the team and we'll take you through. There's a few other things you need on that list there, that middle part. Then you've got your scope 3s, and these are really more difficult to calculate, harder to get data for, but as I say, 0621 is a good sort of stepping stone. It's not onerous. You need all your flight information. How many flights were taken from where to where? Was it a return flight? What class it was? Taxi journeys. How many miles people did in a taxi each month? Trains. How many miles they did on trains each month? Ditto buses. You need waste. You can normally get a certificate of that from your waste agent. So when they take stuff away, they normally give you a certificate, at least weighing it, if nothing else. Deliveries, you need, that's quite hard actually. Deliveries, you need a list of typical deliveries going to and from your various sites and how many occurred in each month. If you're concerned that that's going to be thousands of deliveries, get in contact with the team, we'll take you through it, but there's a couple of shortcuts you can use to reduce that down to a manageable size. You also need your commuting data. So information on your staff commuting habits. You can get that using an app. So there's a great app out there. It's called Carbon Survey. That will do it for you. or you can do a poll of your staff, or failing that, the worst comes to worst, there are industry metrics you can use, but we frown on using them because they are extremely generic. Okay, so monthly data for 2020 for all of those things. I've got it here. This is what some of it looks like. This is the transport, this component here. It normally comes on a spreadsheet which we'll import into the system. Electricity, this is just for one site. So, you know, you can have quite a few of those. They normally arrive on PDF. I've printed them off to show you, but normally PDF. Gas, again, that's for one site. So, you know, that's kind of what you're looking at there. Now, that's what you need. Once you've got all that, let's fire up Plato and let's go through the calculation.
So we've got all our data. Let's put it into Plato. And I've got an account here where I've already typed in a lot of the data you've seen. So I'm just going to show you how that data was entered, and really, you know, how you can pull your carbon footprint out. So let's take a look, shall we? So this is Plato in all its glory. When you first fire it up, it will look like that. Click on the cogs and you can set your company name up here. If you've got multiple sort of entities within your company, then you can set them up here. And this can get really quite complex depending on what corporate structure you've got. Back to home here. What else do we need to do up here? Well, we need to set the date. So let's have a look at dates. I said earlier we were looking at calendar year 2020, which is this, so 1st of Jan to the 31st of December 20. You could choose that. Another common one is looking at current, so the past 12 months. That's the top option there, okay? But here we're looking at January to December 2020. And what else do we need to set up in settings? Dates, sites, so you can see here I've put a few sites in. Birmingham, Edinburgh, London, Sheffield, and transport gratefully. A couple of transport ones. We just group transport sometimes separately. It's easier then to see the data that comes in through, you know, all of the mileage logs and company fuel cards. So back here, what else do we need to do? Set the dates. We set the company name. Data quality is an interesting one. Come back to that, maybe probably not in this video, but here, if you know, for example, this is tricky, deliveries. So if you know that deliveries are estimated, just set that and it will set the data quality for you across there. And the idea is that at some stage in the project you'll fill this in so you know just how good the data is you're looking at. What else do I need to do before we actually get going with the data? Data quality we've looked at. Project notes are interesting. I won't click on it, but in project notes you can write down audit details, how you estimated numbers, list of missing data, etc., etc. It's just a useful sort of notepad that goes with the net zero projects. Users, you know, if you've got multiple users throughout the world, they go in there. I'm not going to dwell on that. Let's have a look. So data we've got in here, when we set the modules up, go into modules here. If you remember, we are going to select limited net zero, PPN 0621. This is the other favorite, the complete net zero, which is GHG scope 3. But if you remember, we selected limited net zero. And what that means is that out of the, I think we've got something like 30 odd modules in Plato, it will only select the ones that are suitable for PPN 0621. Which means that when you look at the home page here, when we go back to home, you've got all of the data bits you need to fill in to be PPN 0621 compliant down here, and you haven't got any kind of ones that you don't need to bother about. So there's the data here. Let's start looking at the data. And, you know, I'm going to start here, energy use, which is the big one. The energy use is, as it might sound, it's, you know, all the energy you use in your company. There's a couple of ways of putting data in. You could either go, for example, add new energy source. Let's put it against London. Let's say it's, what will it be? Let's try and imagine that we've got some propane going on in London. So propane propane there, and let's say we get it measured in liters. So where are we? Kilograms, liters based. Oh, it's right at the bottom of my screen. There you go, propane. That will add that in then. There it is, just add it in. So one thing you can do is just type in. So if you knew, for example, you use what was a likely figure to be 300 liters of propane there, 400 liters of propane there, etc. You can just type that in and off it goes quite merrily, filling it in that way. So that's one way of doing it. I mean, it's quite quick, but it does rely on you knowing how much you used for exact months. And sometimes, as you know, your bills come in, they start mid-month and end, either mid-month or 3 months later or 6 months later. To tackle that, what I normally do is go view or add energy bills up here, add a bill, and in here, let's just select our London propane, and we can select when it starts. Let's do it. For example, imagine it was halfway through July through to halfway through August. Dip, 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 dip. There we go. Halfway through, say to the 14th of August, that's a monthly bill there. Propane liters, if you say that was, for example, I don't know, 521 liters. What it will do then is it will actually work out for you the apportionment between the months, split it equally over the months, so that when you go back to your energy data, it's all in there nice and neatly. Propane should be down here. There. Okay. So that works quite well. We quite like that. And this, by the way, this figure is 2000, not the number we enter, because don't forget you're entering in liters. This has converted it to kilowatt hours for you, and they're using the government approved factors. So you can enter all of your energy in that way. You can also upload CSVs and stuff like that. A useful little feature for you. Filter, if you've got lots of energy sources, filtering can just, I don't know, it's just easier to find the stuff you need if you've got pages and pages of it. And show coverage is quite good fun. What that will do is it will show you, green means you've got data for the entire month, whereas here, if it's in red, you're missing some data, and it will show you how many data points it's got for the month, whereas in reality, if it's a 30-day month, you're expecting 30 data points. Okay, so that's energy. What else can we look at in here for you? Transport is the next big one. Transport is split into two sections. So you've got the transport summary, which is a summary of all the data that's gone in, and then you've got the data itself. So this is the summary on here with all the various kind of vehicle types. I think there's about 30 or 40 vehicle types. And to edit the data, you go into edit data here, and that will pull up a list of all the data. It's got lots of it. Again, you can filter if you need to there. If you've got masses and masses of data, you can do that. And again, you can just type in whatever the figures actually were. Or if you go back here, we often get pages and pages of this stuff. So if you go back to the data, you can upload the spreadsheet there. And when you upload the spreadsheet, there's a template here that you fill in that will allow you just to put the data in a structured fashion. And once you've got the data in the right format, you can just suck in an entire spreadsheet. So if you've got lots of data, that's a quicker way of doing it. Okay, that gives you the transport. What else we got? Let's have a look. Why don't we take a look at some of the other sort of scope 3 factors now? Well, this is an interesting one. Aircon. If you've got, that's the aircon gas replacements there. If you've got an aircon system of any size, you'll have what's called a TM44 inspection each year. It's mandatory, you have to do it. And when they do the TM44 inspection, they'll see whether you need to add any more, replace any gas that might have leaked. And when they replace the gas, they give you they tell you how much gas they put in, either in litres or in kilograms, and what type of refrigerant it is. So R404A, R32, etc., etc. And now you don't have to worry so much about it. Just know what the number is on the F-gas certificate. So, and then type it in here. And the F-gas stuff can be quite nasty. So imagine that in April, for example, we lost, I don't know, three kilograms. Just type that in there, up it pops there. It can be quite nasty. And the last figures I was looking at for one of the refrigerants, there was 1 kilogram of this refrigerant was equivalent to 3,000 kilograms, so 3 tons of CO2 going into the atmosphere. So they can be really, really nasty, which is why they're included in most of the frameworks that we work to. So let's have a look at flights in here. Quite easy, really. It's just how many flights of that type you made. Let's put in a new one for you to show you what you can do. Let's imagine I went from sales meeting in Munich, and let's say we had, say, a dozen people going to that economy class from, let's go from Manchester and Munich. Munich airport there, and it will fill in. This is short haul flight. It's 1,130 kilometers, 341 kilograms. So we set that up as a flight type, and then when we ping back here, we can ping into it. And what did we say we had? Where's the sales meeting? Let's imagine we had 12 people going to that in March. Bash, there you go. Already works out the carbon for you there, and you can see it's just peeping up there on the graph. So very easy. Works out all the flights for you. What else? Well, let's have a look at some of the train, travel, and taxis, since we're looking at travel. Let's take a look. So they're lurking down here, travel by bus, by train, and by tube. And it's more or less the same as you saw earlier. Click in there. And don't forget, this is for all staff. So let's say there was the London staff did, say, 1,000 miles worth of train travel there. Fish. There you go, etc. And you notice I put zeros in here to represent the COVID drop. We didn't get many of our clients traveling much during COVID at all. And there it is. And it's exactly the same if you look at taxi and bus. So, sorry, not taxi, tube and bus. So there's the bus. There you go, in there. Okay. What else do we need to do? Well, this has got all of the commuting in. So let's put hotels in. Is it a mode of travel? No. Are you going to have scope 3 emissions by staying in a hotel? Yeah, of course you are. So let's do that next. Into hotels, and this is how many hotels, how many hotel nights you stayed for staff from Birmingham office. So let's say the Sheffield office went to the Munich conference, and let's just imagine there was a dozen of them stayed. Now, a dozen of them stayed for 3 days, so that's 36 nights of hotel stay there. And there it is, creeping in at the top there, yeah? Okay. So that's the hotels, and that's really all the travel. I think I haven't missed anything out that you need to do. I said I'll come back to commuting in a second. Let's have a look at waste, cracking through them. Same deal, really. All you need to do is type in the kilograms of waste that were disposed of. When your waste provider takes the stuff away and hopefully puts it in for recycling, they'll give you a report normally on the weight of stuff they took. So that's normally quite normal. I say with a couple of clients, they struggled to get hold of that report. The waste provider was somewhat, I won't say reluctant, it's the wrong word, but they were just not, I don't know, they were just a bit rubbish, really. So they had to wait ages to get the report. But once you know how many kilograms of waste you were generating, you can put it in here. And let's say it was an extra 100 kilograms in July, etc. There it is there. If you wanted to go into more depth about the waste sources you've got, there is a facility in here where you can type custom drivers in, and you could actually say, well, look, we generate a lot of waste aluminium or a lot of waste steel or whatever it's going to be. So this waste is pretty generic, but if you've got specifics, again, give us a nudge, drop me an email, get in touch with the team, and we'll show you how to do kind of specific waste factors. Okay. What else do we need to look at? Well, you can either go into the individual commuting factors here, like that, and just type in the number of miles, rather like you did for business travel, much the same really. Or failing that, if you want to, we've got this app, that's it here, and the app will allow you to type in your details. So let's imagine there was a 2-litre car, and we're in Oxford in the UK, so into London and back to probably about 120 miles round trip. I've actually got an electric car, but I'll put petrol just for demonstration purposes. Press submit, and that will then give you your tons or kilograms of CO2 that you generate per month. Okay, and then that information is actually collected in Plato. Here. So you can actually see down here, I've got nothing in it, but the commuting survey down here, it pops up on here. Maybe I'll put some in next time to sort of give you a better demo of that. But it pops up in here so you can see your staff commute patterns. Okay. And that will actually then calculate automatically all of the figures you're going to need all the carbon you're going to need for the staff commuting. So very useful function there. So we do the commuting. Now I mentioned deliveries were the trickiest. I think they are out of this set of drivers. And it works the same sort of thing as flights. You set up here what your typical deliveries are. Sounds easy. It's harder when you come to do it, believe me. And as a tip, you don't need all deliveries. You just need all the significant deliveries. So, if you've got like pens arriving from Amazon on day one, and the next day you've got, 32 tons of bricks, don't worry so much about the pens, but concentrate on that Amazon piece first. Okay. So list all significant deliveries, not all deliveries. And then back in the system here, all you do is you type in the less than load, i.e. it's not a complete van, you're sharing a van with someone else, or full load here and here. Type in the number of miles that the delivery was, well, where it came from, really, from the supplier. Indicate whether it's from a supplier or delivery to a customer. Okay, and the carbon will be worked out down here. So let's, for example, let's put in pears. Supplier is Margaret's pears. Let's say we're delivering, so they were 2 tons, 2,000 kilograms at a time. And let's say we fly those in from, why don't we, from Munich, what we did earlier, so 1130, that's the distance there. And you can see the amount of CO2 there. Quite a lot, really, isn't it? Quite a lot. I suppose that's why you don't fly 2 tons of pears too often. Okay. Once you've done all that, you go back to deliveries, and then the next job is to look at how many deliveries of each of that type happened during the month. Okay. Now, and you can split it between deliveries. That's the ones that we deliver to, in this case, Tesco's. And this one here is deliveries to us. Yeah, so you can just click on that, make it a bit easier for you. Deliveries can get tricky. If you get stuck there, drop me an email or get in contact with the team, and they're trying to help you out, so we can help you through that part. Okay, so the next thing, once we've got all the data in, and I think that's all the data we're going to need for a PPN 0621 calculation, it's just a simple matter then of clicking on carbon footprint. What this will do is it will go through each of the drivers that we've put in, all the data points, and then one by one pull the carbon use for each of those components into a centralized table and a centralized view of what your footprint is. In this case, 3725. excuse me, and this is the kind of breakdown of it. And you can see here, working from home, a huge factor there. And this table here is absolute gold dust. I mean, this is what you're going to need if you want to do carbon reduction projects. Without this information, you don't know where you're starting, you don't know what to highlight, you don't know where to focus, etc. And if you've got targets, say you've got the science-based targets project running, you want to know that you're reducing, for example, by 2.5% absolute terms year on year. So, the old adage, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, is absolutely correct. And here, this stuff is what it's all for. This is about finding out where to focus your efforts. And I won't show you in this video, but there's other screens in there to help you then track that through, so that once you've got this figure, you can then do forward projections, what if analysis and stuff like that, and start looking about what it might be if you did project 1 or if you did project 2, etc., and then lower it down. It also is extremely useful for your offsets, so you know how much to offset each year. Okay, so there you go. We took a data set, lots of pieces of paper. I got to cheated a bit, type a lot of it in beforehand, but I've shown you how to do that. It is genuinely not hard. It's like a glorified spreadsheet, really put it in. We then did some of the ones that are a bit different. I mean, Deliveries is, that is the hardest one out of all of them, I think. We did that, and then we had a look at the carbon footprint, and then, down here, not only can we see it in graphical form, you can see where it's made up. So there you go. Right, from start to end, carbon footprinting using Plato. I hope that was useful. If you've got any questions, drop me a note. Contact details down underneath, or leave a comment, or all the usual things. And if you liked this video, if you like what we're doing and you want to support us, click the subscribe button, and then we'll be able to keep you informed about the other videos we're doing. Okay, thanks.